Welcome to the Heat Press Nation tutorial video on setting up your GCC cutter. In this tutorial, I'll be going over step-by-step procedure on software and hardware installation. For any further questions beyond this video, you can always visit our website at heatpressnation.com or give us a call simply at 800-215-0894. First thing you want to do is insert the CD that's labeled GCC into your computer, and you want to go ahead and run this installation. Go ahead and click English. And the first thing we want to do is install the driver for your cutter. And as you can see in the list, you have all the other options you can select, but in this one, we're going to go ahead and select Expert and the Expert 2 24LX. Now, you want to go ahead and select Automatic Detection so it can automatically find your USB. Go ahead and hit Yes. Hit OK. And you're going to get this window indicating that you must have your USB plugged in and your power also. You want to make sure your power switch is on and click OK. OK again. And you should see a screen that says Add Expert 24LX printer driver successfully. You can also have one that says Expert 2. In this case, we're actually using Expert 1, so you might get a different message. But once you get that, you want to go ahead and, if this is the first time installing your cutter, register online for a 3-month warranty extension by clicking here, or you can always register later. Click Exit for this. And once you've installed the driver, you can always go to your Start menu, go to Devices and Printers, and you should see that your cutter is listed right here. And if you click Printer Properties and go to Ports, it's in the virtual USB port, so everything is good to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install GrayCut 3. You want to go ahead and click that. You will then get a window saying if you'd like to proceed with this, and you want to click Yes. Install the software all the way through. And add a shortcut to your desktop. Once it is finished installing, you want to click Finish. And it's going to go ahead and prompt you to enter a license. And in order to retrieve this, we're going to go back to the software, and you want to hit Online Registration. Now, the CD sleeve your GCC CD was in has a GrayCut vouchers code listed right in the front. In this case, we're going to go and enter it word for word, letter by letter, and hyphens too. Once it's entered, go ahead and click Go On. And you will have your information here. Now, if you need to register for the first time, you can go ahead and click Request and fill out your information, and GCC will email you a license information directly, and you can always use that. Otherwise, if you're already registered, it will show up right away. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our software and hit License, Continue, and this is where you're going to copy and paste all this information into here. So copy the first part, paste it, copy the second part, paste it. Make sure you leave out any kind of blank spaces, and copy the last part and paste it. Once you click OK, you're registered, and go ahead and click Continue. A proper way to load the vinyl is always loading it from the right side to the left, because your cutter always cuts from this side to this side. And these wheels are your rollers that feed your vinyl back and forth.
You have multiple white tabs that you can use, but you want to always make sure the wheels are always on the very edge of your vinyl. When you're measuring your material, you want to be able to utilize every inch of this vinyl as much as possible. So the best way to make sure your vinyl is installed properly is pull out the vinyl forward, use these guiders here, and make sure it's even on both sides. But at the same time, you have to make sure that the wheels are underneath the white markers. So a good way to install 15-inch Caesar Easy Weed is you make one right here, make this one right here, and then this middle guider can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be underneath the white markers. So you clamp it down, clamp this one down, and what you want to do is take your machine offline, skew your vinyl forward, make sure you're at the very corner at starting point. You want to hit origin set once, go back online. Now from here, you want to make sure your cutter measures this material. So you want to hit origin set 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now that it's finished measuring, it's going to start cutting from here, and this is the very end that you can cut to. Just keep in mind that your cutter only cuts between these 2 wheels. It's never going to go past it.
This is Grey Cut 3's layout, and this is only a cutting based software. So if you have images that are already designed, this is a great software to use. Cut your designs, making sure everything's optimized and sizing is all correct. Now, you would want to use a vector-based software to create your text, numbers, letters, and shapes, and other kinds of designs. Such softwares like CorelDRAW, like Adobe Illustrator, or any other vector-based software. And there's a lot of free vector softwares as well. Once you have designs created, you can go to File and Import to be able to load your graphic. Vector images come in different formats like .eps, .ai, .pdf, and many more. In this tutorial, we're just going to go ahead and load in a image that was created by GCC, and that's already loaded in the software. And if you click File Open, this is the logo that we're going to bring here. And this is what a vector logo would typically look like. It's a computer graphic, and all the lines and shapes are mathematically set so that even if you scale it larger or smaller, you zoom in and out, the quality of the lines will never change because this is a vector logo. These are mathematically set. Other images like JPEG, bitmap, and many other compressed or image-based graphics will have a lot of pixelation to them. You might not see them from afar, but if you zoom in, these lines will start to get pixelated and you'll see a bunch of boxes. So you want to make sure you're working with an image that's vector at all times. That's how the cutter knows exactly where the lines are going to be cut. And if you want to make sure where all the vector lines are, you can always change the view mode into contour view, which is vector view, and you can see where the lines are at now. First thing I like to do is clip my image to the lower left corner. That way I kind of physically see the measurements, and you can always see the measurements here. This image is 19.3 inches by 5.1. I'm going to bring this image down a little bit smaller in size just for cutting purposes. There. And with sticker vinyl, you want to keep the image as is. With heat transfer vinyl, you want to make sure these images are mirrored, because when you heat press it, it'll come out backwards if not. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Design, Vertical Mirror. As you can see, it's flipped. And the one thing to note is that if your image is laid out in this orientation, it's going to cut in length. This is the width of your vinyl and this is the length. And to make it easier, you can go to Settings, Working Area, and I can change this for you so that's a little bit easier to see. We're cutting 15-inch vinyl, so this is the width of it, and as you go down here, it's the length. So the one thing I want to do is, for a longer image like this, I kind of want to cut here so that I'm utilizing the space. You don't have to do it this way, but I'm just going to do it for this tutorial. So you want to click this and you want to rotate it. So you go to Design, Rotate Axis. Now I can go ahead and click this here. And now I'm almost ready to cut. And the way to do this is you want to go to File and you want to hit Output. Print is if you want to print an image. If you want to cut, you want to hit Output. And since this is your first time setting up your cutter, you're gonna get the screen and you want to find your cutter first. So in driver, I actually have the Expert 24LX, the version 1. You might have the Expert 2 24LX, so make sure you select the right cutter. Since I have that, I select that, and under here I have it connected as USB, so I'm gonna go ahead and click this, find my cutter in this list, and hit OK. Now this is the output screen on where you can change your pressure, speed, material width, sizing, and everything here. Has everything to do with cutting. You can set the number of copies, if you want weed border or not, and you can even select which color you want to cut at a time. If you want to cut gray, you select this one. If you want to cut blue, you select this one, and you can output it to be able to cut that. This output button is to be able to cut. Preview is to see your design before you cut, and read material is the most important part here. It's because you want to make sure your material is read physically and that the software knows exactly how much was measured, so that your vinyl images aren't going past what was measured and it doesn't go off your vinyl. Sometimes you'll have 15-inch vinyl installed, and if you're not careful, your graphic might be over that, and to prevent it from cutting over, you have this button, read material. So 18.5 inches is not true. I have 15-inch vinyl installed, so after I measured it, you want to hit this, and it gave me 13.49. Now, even if you have 15-inch vinyl, you're not going to be able to cut 15-inch vinyl completely. You got to count for the rollers. You want to make sure you have enough space in the edges, typically about 1.5 inches, maybe 1 inch on each side. So that's why we got 13.49 inches here. So when you're ready to cut, you can go ahead and just click output, but in this case I'm just going to preview so we can see exactly how it's going to look on our vinyl. As you can see, this is the length of my vinyl, and this is cutting in width. So when you're ready to cut, you can just click output here, or you can close a small window and go to file, output, and output right here again. But always make sure read material is already read so that you have the right measurements, and go ahead and hit output here. If you ever want to cut more than one of the same logo and you don't want to copy and paste it in the layout, you can always do this in the output screen. So you want to first load your image, set it however you need to, and you go to File and Output. And over here at the top, you can select how many copies you actually want to cut. So we're going to just put a random number here of 10, and we can click Preview to see how it's going to look on the vinyl. And as you can see, it's stacked it along length, and it's perfectly set and separated so that you can weed it very easily. So when you're ready to cut, you can just go ahead and hit output from here, or again, go to File, Output, make sure the copy is set, read material. Right now it's already set at 13.49, so it's not going to change, and you hit output. If you're trying to cut multiple colors, let's say you have a black vinyl and white vinyl, or in this case a blue vinyl and gray vinyl, you can always cut one color at a time, and you can select it in the output screen. So you figure out which color or which vinyl you want to cut first. If you want to do glitter and you want to cut maybe easy weed vinyl separately, you can do that separately. So you want to load in the vinyl you want to cut first and choose between which one it needs to be. So let's pretend that we want to cut the blue part, and you can load in your blue vinyl or any other color. Go to File, Output, and under the screen, this is where you can select which color you want to cut at a time. So if I have my vinyl that I want to cut in gray cut only, you can select blue, and you can preview it to see it. As you can see, the gray part is missing because we selected nothing but the blue, and you can hit output to cut it from here. Now if you want to cut this part, the gray part, same procedure, go to File, Output, and under here can select the gray part and preview it, and as you can see, it's listed there. So this is very good for cutting different types of vinyl, possibly different colors. Just keep in mind that your logo colors does not make a difference in how it's going to cut or anything like that. This is for your reference to distinguish back and forth on which one needs to be cut out. So if you have red and black vinyl, it does not matter. Just make sure you're selecting the right one when you're doing this. Vector logos can be broken up and you can cut in multiple parts. You can change it in different sizes. You can rearrange them all within the software. And the way to do that is, first off, you got to make sure your image is in vector format. You can click it, and when you right click it, you'll be able to ungroup this entire image. So this allows you to separate each part of the image, and you can resize if you need to, and you can always change the color. So let's say you're trying to cut this in 10 different colors. You can select which color you want to do by just changing it, and keep in mind that this is for your own viewing purposes as well, so that when you're cutting, you know exactly which one you're setting under the output screen. You can always select the back, and you can group them again so that everything is solidified together. If you want to break the combination, so once you group it, you can technically break it. So that means if you have an image with a lot of little details where there's a lot more vector lines than usual, in this case it's not a good example because there's not, but if you do, then once you break the combination, you'll be able to get into the lines, like each vector line has a different color and all detailed vector logos that are within it as well. But this is something that is rarely used. If you ever need to edit your image, maybe one of the letters too large or whatever it is too small, keep in mind that you can ungroup it and you can always resize if you need to, just like that. Contour cutting is the ability to cut around a digital printed photo. So one thing about digital photos is that they can come in various different qualities. Vector is always going to be one quality because they are mathematically set. But when it comes to contour cutting, to be able to cut around a digitally printed photo, there's differences between JPEG and some bitmaps and resolutions altogether. So you always want to work with the highest quality image, because if you don't, you might get a lot of inconsistent cuts and it's not going to be as accurate as you'd like it to be. So we're going to show you two different samples of images, and the way to do that is you go to File, Import, and we have HPN logo number 1, and I'm going to load in HPN logo number 2. Let's go ahead and resize this one to about the same size, right around here, and put it right there. Now if you zoom out a little bit, it's a little hard to tell, but once you get closer and closer and closer, you'll notice that the logo on the right is very, very pixelated. As you can see, the one on the left is much sharper in quality because the resolution is much higher on that graphic. They're both JPEGs, but this one is obviously very low quality. So if you try to contour cut something like this, you're going to get a lot of jagged edges and it's just not going to be very clean. So as you can see in comparison, this is much cleaner, but overall, you know, once you get closer and closer, it does pixelate eventually. But once you get about this far, you can't see the pixelation in the human eye, so you want to make sure it's of the highest quality. You can go ahead and delete that, and with an image like this, you always want to make sure you resize accordingly to the paper you're trying to cut. So I'm going to do just a very small sample just for testing purposes, and keep in mind that you can always adjust to whatever works the best for you. Let's just keep it at 8 inches here, and with contour cutting you have to determine what type of transfer paper you're using. If it's light heat transfer paper, you want to make sure this image is mirrored, and to do that you go to Design, Vertical Mirror. If it's not, then you leave it as normal. If it's dark heat transfer paper or opaque heat transfer paper, you keep it as is. The first thing we need to do is you need to set registration marks on this image. Now, registration marks are what your cutter scans, and then it goes back to the image and contour cuts it. It's not going to scan your image, but it's going to scan the registration marks. So it's very, very important that they're printed with it and that the lines are very prominent to see. To make sure your lines are going to be thick enough, first thing I'd recommend doing is go to Settings, Standard Settings, and Register/Jog Marks. Now, default is going to be 0.040. I want to go ahead and change this to 0.080 to double the thickness of the line and hit OK. First thing we need to do is print it, so you want to make sure you go to Tools, Set Jog Marks, and as you can see, it automatically creates the registration marks. And if you notice in this image, if I deselect out of here, one of these corners has a 45-degree line, which is right here basically. And this is where your blade needs to be positioned right above. And this is the starting point for the blade, because it's going to scan this one, this bracket, and basically the rest of them, and go back to your image to be able to cut. So you want to deselect out, go to File, Print, and as you can see, I don't see my registration marks, but I see my logo. And you want to go ahead and change your orientation, because they're there, it's just that in the way that it was shaped, it's not in the picture. So the main thing you're looking for is that the object has to be smaller than the printable area. If you notice here, the object is 10.36, printable area is 11. I'm good on here. But as you can tell, 8.07 is larger than 8. So technically speaking, it's going past my paper, which is not good at all. So a way to do this is you can either resize your image, but I found a little trick, and that is to resize your registration marks. You can either do it from the corner here, or you can do it down here, and resize like this. The only thing you can't do is you can't go past your image like that. You always want to make sure it's on the outside of the image, just like this. Deselect out. File, Print, and in this time, my object is 8.88, printable area is 11, 6.21 is smaller than 8. And the reason why this works is now everything fits, and I didn't even have to resize the image. I just made the registration marks a little bit smaller, because this is not what's going on a t-shirt, and it does not matter. One thing you have to make sure is that the scaling is 100% on both sides here, and that here is 1 to 100% ratio. And if you need to change the orientation depending on your image, feel free to do so. In this case, 8 to 8, I'd rather just keep it landscape, so do that. And you want to go ahead and print it out.
So it's very important to have the 45-degree mark position on this side of the cutter, because you're always cutting from this side to that side. First thing you want to make sure is that both wheels are outside of the entire graphic and outside of the entire registration mark as well. And make sure they're underneath the white marker at all times. So you want to clamp them where they can be outside, such as right here and right here. So once you've done that, you want to hit origin set 3 times. And then afterwards, you want to make sure it's lined up right above that 45-degree line. Origin set, back online.
Once you've placed the paper on top of the cutting mat and made sure the blade is positioned right above this 45-degree line, we're going to need to set the contour line on where it needs to be cut around this image. Now, this is your personal preference as to where you want it to be cut. I'll show you some basic examples of different settings you can do. Now, if you want to cut directly on the image itself, you can always click the image, go to Tools, and go to Contour Line. This is where you need to trace it. And we're going to change the color so that you can actually see it much easier. So we'll go ahead and change this to red. And this, by the way, does not matter. And if you want to do a direct cut, you can always set this value to 0. And if I calculate it, you can see that it traces around the image exactly on the edges. Now, if you want to do an offset, in some cases, you can actually put a bit of an offset. So if you go by default of 0.08, you can always calculate it, and it does cut away from the image. And sometimes it adds a little bit of a cool effect having that white background. And if you do a 0 offset and you calculate it and it does not actually cut exactly on the edge, maybe it's off by a little bit, my little trick that I recommend is you can always put this at -0.0 either 2 or 3, and you can calculate this, and sometimes that's going to help close in the image here so that you don't get any kind of white background at all. And even though it looks like it's going to cut too deep into the image, sometimes it does it really well. So that's something I could also recommend if the zero offset does not work. So if I were to cut this, after I set the contour line, you go to File, Output, and the one thing you want to change is this mode. Cut is for vinyl cutting, cut with AAS is for contour cutting, so you have to change the mode. And this is basically a little bit more settings now since we've changed the mode here. The origin offset is if you want to position the contour cut a little bit in a different position. So if you increase the value in X, it's going to cut left or right, decreased or increased. If you change the value here in Y, it's going to be up or down, increased or decreased in value. So it's always going to cut a little bit higher or a little bit lower, a little bit to the left or to the right. And keep in mind that this is in inches, so these are very sensitive numbers. You want to do 0.02 increments at a time. 0.02, 0.04 if you notice that your designs are not being cut. But otherwise, you shouldn't really have to mess with this. The cutters are usually set to cut perfectly around the image. Sometimes it's a little bit off, and that's why you can do that trick. Pressure and speed, if you're noticing that it's not cutting all the way through, you can always increase the pressure. Speed, I just keep it at 30, you don't need to increase that. So when you're ready to cut, the first thing you need to do is, of course, read material. In this case, we measured a different size paper with cutting mat versus the vinyl. So we're going to get a little bit of a different reading. So the measurement that was read is 9.6 inches. That's big enough to be able to cut my design. And if you click preview, you can see exactly what's going to be contour cut. So you can hit output to start the process, or you can close this, file, output, read material if you haven't done so, and you can go ahead and click output.